We have a problem in this world with black men and black boys.
But that's the whole tragic point, my friends.
We're here because we have a very serious message that we would like to share with whoever cares to listen. You are not obligated to stand here and listen to us.
Once again,
So if when we speak you don't like what we say,
what I feel,
you should use your God-given intelligence
I
and move along.
I could smile.
We are not intimidated by those who think that they can stop what it is that we have to say.
Tell me
Our stance is purely defensive, and every creature has been given the wherewithal of self-defense and self-determination. And we as human beings, as black men in particular, we reserve the right to our self-preservation and our self-defense. And so that's why we adopt this particular stance. We are sending a message to any potential aggressor: don't go there. We do not turn the other cheek. If you slap my cheek, I will kick all four of your cheeks. This is how we roll. We are tired as black people of people treating us as their beating sticks. We make no apology as black men for standing firm for our human rights. This is what we're about. We believe in justice.
Peace and power. This is Brother Syke with the Panther 48. I'm 130 the Panther 48. Brother Robert Wall Weaves is not here with us today. Again, he has a family emergency that he has to deal with, so we taking the reins. Sitting here, we have Brother E calling from Florida.
Yes, sir. Good to be here.
That is our official Panther 48 Minister Information. We have myself calling out of Texas. I'm the official Panther 48 Chief of Staff. Again, let's explain this. The Panther 48 is not another Panther faction, but a group of longtime revolutionaries who have decided to come together to bring together revolutionary information, history, and documentation. And in the place of Brother Wall, we have a special guest. We have what we would probably call the modern day Huey P. Newton, the founder of the New Black Panther Party, and the person, if we all wanted to say who started this stuff, we would have to point at this person. We had a brother, Aaron Michaels, calling out of Dallas.
The man.
Greetings, my friends, my comrades, the people that I will always live and die with and for.
Peace, peace. We thank you for being here today, brother. We've started a new trajectory with this YouTube channel. What we started out doing was doing political education on the channel. And we're going to continue to do that because we believe that political education is necessary and extremely important. But what we decided to do was start bringing on those brothers and those sisters who are the founders, who stood at the foundation of the most, I can say, the most instrumental movements of date who have come through the Black community. And so we have started walking that path. Last week we did the Huey P. Newton Gun Club. This week, especially considering that the brother talked so much on the New Black Panther Party and on you yourself and Brother War for being those things that inspired him to do what it is that he has been doing. So we decided that it was time to come back to the origin. And I'm gonna pass it to Brother E, because Brother E gonna have a few questions, a few interview type questions that he want to get to you, and we're gonna see where this thing started at.
All right, appreciate it. So Aaron, I'm finna make you feel old. So I graduated high school 88, 89. Can you give us an idea of what you were doing? We know, but give us an idea of what you was doing 1988, 1989.
Oh, wow. We were probably 2 years into forming the New Black Panther Party. The new Black Panther Party was started in October of 1987, on the heels of protests here in Dallas. Uh, at that point, most of the people who were part of that originating founding group of people, we started in Dallas in 87, October of 87, and then we met on the picket line. All of us met on the picket lines, and then we started getting information from different um, black neighborhoods, um, that they were having problems with drug dealers. Of course, everybody who's black in America over the age of 40, I should say, remembers when the crack cocaine epidemic, created by the Reagan administration. And that's documented. This ain't no made up conspiracy shit. This true stuff. When the crack cocaine epidemic came into the black community, um, when it was started, it caused these walking zombies, these folks who were addicted psychologically, mentally, physically to crack. Well, crack coming into the neighborhood caused a lot of problems in our neighborhood. It caused multiple failures of our community as a whole. And one of the things that you start to see in the late 70s, well, you started seeing it in the mid 70s and late 70s, but in the 80s, you really started seeing this black flight from the black community because of that. And then what you see now is this gentrification of the black community. You see whites, white developers, white business owners coming in, buying property in the black community. And now that those folks who are either are dead from the crack cocaine epidemic, or they have moved out, sold their little property that they did have. They've moved out of those neighborhoods and moved to further away into rural areas, things of those natures. But you see them buying those communities up and gentrifying those communities. But long story short is that at that time, at that height of the epidemic, we were probably knee deep into dealing with the crack cocaine epidemic in the black community, principally South Dallas area, um, at that time. So that's some of the inceptions of how the organization was created. And believe it or not, from mid 86 to all the way to about October of 87, we were pretty much known as just the Brothers in Black, because we would always show up at the picket lines, and we would always show up at places, and people used to ask these questions like, who are those brothers? What are they doing out here? They all seem to be dressed in the same way all the time. And so people started asking, are you guys the Black Panther Party? And we never would answer the question, principally because we never even thought of it at that time as being that. We were just the brothers who showed up in black. One of the reasons that we wore black a lot is because we were doing a lot of night operations and dealing with drug dealers in our community. And so that's one of the reasons we actually started wearing the black. And how we ended up carrying guns in the community had nothing to do with the elements of racism and white supremacy that still overshadowed the black community. It dealt with the fact that when we would end up in situations in the community where we had to deal with drug dealers who looked like me and you. And one of the things that came down out of that was that the drug dealers threatened uh, several of the folks that were with us at one time. So we decided at that point in time that we would never come to an area of Dallas dealing with drug dealers empty-handed ever again. That if they showed up, then we would have to show just as much lethal force as they were going to show up with. So that's how we ended up carrying guns in the community. It had nothing to do with any of the things of, like, most people thought this was about the police, or this was about it was underlying tones of it about the police, because we were always saying that the police didn't give a damn about the black community, and they didn't, and they probably still don't. But we had to get out there and deal with our own community. I've always believed, and I still do to this very day, it's something I preach and I live by, that black people in black neighborhoods have to uh patrol their own communities and control their own destinies by doing that. One of the principal founding beliefs of the Black Panther Party, the new Black Panther Party, is we want our freedom. We want the power to determine the destiny of our black communities. And the only way you get there is that power is not only just about economics. That power is also about military and justice, for folks who live in those communities who happen to look like me. And we are seeing the fruits and the evidence of Black power today. Now I know folks out there who and most of the folks who have either been in the organization, who have been around the organization for nearly what 30 some odd years now, yell the words Black power. But I don't think they truly understand what Black power really means. Black power is not just us saying it. We've got to get out there and make Black power happen. And we got to get out there and do it every day. I tell people this all the time. Black power is using everything in the toolbox to make that dream of Black oneness happen every day. Sometimes it's economic. Sometimes it's protest. Sometimes it's military. Most of the time it's judicial. And so we got to get out there and deal with things in that nature. And we got to understand that all of that collectively is what Black power really is. We got to control the destiny of the Black community. How do we do that? We control the economics of the Black community. Remember, when we cleaned up this Black community, if you go down there today where we actually were dealing with Black drug dealers down in this area, there are condos down there now that are 250, 300, $400,000 condos in that community.
Yeah.
Now you got to remember, when we clean that community up from drug dealers, white developers came through there and bought that land up. Now what should have happened was that we should have been talking about Black folks coming down there, buying that land and doing the same principal thing that we see down there now. Down that whole strip of Bear and Stark Street now. I mean, they got cameras up on all of the poles, things that we always, Black security, so that when we have mothers and sisters and young girls and young boys walking to school and walking home from church, that they don't get harassed by folks down there that we don't know about and we don't understand. That's control of the Black community. We want communities that are sound, that are just, and on an ongoing and daily basis. And the only way you get there is truly through controlling all of those elements of what Blackness and our African economics allows us to be. So those are some of the things that we were doing in 1986, 1987, and 2 years after you graduated high school in 1989. We were 2 years into that principle, that idea, and it's because we had rules and regulations. And here's an interesting thing, and I tell people this all the time. One of the things that I see with organizations who call themselves the Black Panther, or even think that they are the Black Panther Party, is that there are new rules and regulations that some of these folks are following now. People have just gotten away from what the rules and regulations mean and what it means, what it truly means to put that uniform on, what it truly means to stand there and yell Black power. It's not about it's not about hating white folks, but it's truly about loving yourself and loving your community and loving your family. It's about all of those things that make us who we are on a daily basis, and we've forgotten that. We've forgotten it in the 20 years that I've principally been gone from the organization. We forgot all that. It's just a free for all now. People just, and so now you got all these factions. You got all these folks who are claiming to be Black Panthers. You got, but they don't understand the history of what makes the Black Panther Party what they were. There were people who went to prison for this shit, people who died, people who are now in exile in countries. I mean, you got Assata Shakur, and it's interesting that I'm having this conversation with you guys about Assata Shakur. I'm going to be going to go meet with her sometime in the next, in the few months coming up. I truly believe that we have to continue the history of folks who came before us, the ones who gave up their life, who can never have a normal life from this day forward. There's still people who are in prison today because of the FBI's counterintelligence program. And as we look at this whole thing centered around extremism in America today and the threat to the homeland, it's not Black folks. This is about white folks, and allowing them to do the things that they have done for centuries. And now that's, as Brother Malcolm would say, the chickens have truly come home to roost in America because of white people gone unchecked in America for violent white extremism in this country.
Wow. So yeah, it's like that pretty much went about how I figured it was. He pretty much answered like half the questions on this list. I mean, I got plenty more questions, but yeah,
Sure.
it's so much to unpack in just
Right.
that little off that one question that was posed out there. I guess kind of two questions. One's a short answer. One's the more depth. You know, we're talking about how some of the membership, or how you all in the initial stages of the party's formation. Number one, it wasn't, because a lot of people get that in their heads, that you all were attempting to revive, to be them, to be, you know, Huey and them again. And so y'all put on black, and we're going to be the new, you know, the new Panthers and all of that, which we know is nonsense. But just hearing you say that essentially the community drafted you all into that position is
Sure.
what I'm hearing. You know, y'all were dressed in black for operational reasons, and they were like, yo, that's them dudes in black. Are y'all Panthers? Boom. Y'all just got drafted into this position.
Right.
But who were some of the folks that initially joined? You know, we hear about, you know, Bobby Hutton and that sort of thing. Some of the initial membership that set the organization up with you, and at the same time, I want to have clarity for the masses of the people about the crossing or the intersection of the old Vanguard and what I'm gonna say us, because that NBPP is still my heart. I still get confused sometimes and have to remind myself, okay, technically, you know, you never quit, but you don't go to the meetings, so you're not really a member in action of the New Black Panther Party, but that's always my reference point. You know, somebody said, yeah, I'm a New Black Panther. I mean, this, and I have to explain it all out. So I'm gonna just say us, and that's what I'm talking about.
I got what you're saying.
But the intersection between us and Bobby and them, and Bobby's issue with us, I know there was some heads bumping and whatnot back in the day. I don't know if you want to shine any light on that for clarity's sake for folks.
I will. Well, of course, the New Black Panther Party started informally in '86. I guess you would say that we became the Black Panther Party in 1987. We ended up starting using the term new because we were truly being sued by one former member of the Black Panther Party here in Dallas for the name usage. And let me say this, because I truly believe that you know, giving homage to those who came before us, who took us in and continue to work with us. We started that organization because I was a producer of a nightly talk show on KKDA radio 7:30 a.m. back in the 80s, which was the voice of the Black community at that time. And I was producing a show called Talk Back with Dallas County Commissioner John Wiley Price as the host. And so we started doing research on various issues in the Black community, where a lot of the things that we were dealing with in the 80s, where all of it started to come from. And so by doing that research, we had conversations with attorney Jones, who filed the original lawsuit for the Tuskegee syphilis case studies. We dealt with hip hop artists who had conscious music, Chuck D, the rapper Paris out of the Bay Area in San Francisco. We were the first radio station in the country on our program to play his music when he went to Cuba in 1987, 88. When he put his first album out, The Devil Made Me Do It. He called us from Cuba when he was meeting with Assata Shakur, and we did an interview with him at that time. We started having all of these different people on that talk show. So what happened was, one of the conversations that we had was, everybody who came on that show, we would ask them the question. we would ask the question, does the Black community still need a force in the community such as what the Black Panther Party was in the 60s and 70s? And everybody who came on the program pretty much said, yes, there needs to be an organization like that, that with that caliber in existence today, dealing with police violence and things of that nature. So that brought up an idea as we were out on the picket lines, that we were dealing with police officers who did not respect us as protesters and the power of the protest. So what we ended up doing was, that's how principally the organization was created, from brothers and sisters who were on that picket line. We used to have a young lady in our organization, and her nickname, I always say her code name was Patty Hearst. And Patty Hearst was the granddaughter of the person that they named after the one of the courthouses in the George Allen Courthouse downtown. And if you know the history of George Allen, you know that his he was one of those people that was thrown down the stairs of the courthouse 3 times and almost ended up going blind after he was thrown down the stairs. Well, his granddaughter ended up joining the new Black Panther Party back in the 80s. And so she stayed with our organization for a number of years. And so we had people like that and who were joining. And she was at that time, she was a registered nurse in one of the main hospitals in Dallas County. So, and one of the big hospitals in Dallas County. So we had a lot of folks who just didn't come from what we call the hood in the new Black Panther Party. We had folks who were business owners. We had folks who were uh, nurses, who were firefighters. And one of those things that I always tell folks is, we have folks who were off the books, who we were working with, who actually were in military and in other aspects of law enforcement, who were off the books. And of course, we knew that the FBI was watching our organization from the day we said we were the new Black Panther Party. We knew we couldn't name these folks, but these folks worked principally with us and for the organization. And it kept us, getting the intelligence from these individuals kept us alive at different points in time. And I think that's part of the aspect that people didn't know about. David Foreman being one of the first members of the new Black Panther Party. Rob didn't come into the organization until 1995, after the first Million Man March. But when Rob joined the organization in 95, and he came in hot, on fire, and he knew what needed to be done within that organization. And I saw leadership in him at that time. And I always tell folks, people my age now, I was always grooming folks, getting them ready for leadership, because I never wanted to, number one, I never wanted to lead the new Black Panther Party, but it fell on me because somebody needed to be out front of this organization and developing it and creating the programs. And so that fell on me to do. But principally, I told folks from day one, I'm trying to work myself out of a job, because I wanted to have young folks coming through this organization who were trained, who understood their history, who understood the rules and regulations, so that when it was time to hand this thing off, that we handed it off to folks who we trained. And things of that nature. So it was always about me working myself out of a job at the end of the day. And I think that's one of the things that I was trying to get, even after I left the organization, I was trying to get those folks to do the same thing. Unfortunately, in 2001, January of 2001, folks who are power hungry, who see nothing but themselves as this an authoritarian leader, bringing in unprincipled ideology to lead the organization, pretty much had to rule the organization with this iron fist and iron hand. And I'll say this publicly because I don't mind saying it, because it's something that I told even the person who came in behind me to lead. And remember this now, the person that I worked with to lead the organization only lived for 30 days after I left the organization in January. They only lived 4 more weeks, and they were dead after that. And that was Khalid Muhammad. And
Damn.
so sometimes you just got to say it, because
Damn.
people don't really understand what was going on in the
Yeah.
organization
Yeah.
and what was going on nationally. And when you begin to see that shift in power, you begin to truly understand it. I'm a firm believer that none of the things that I ever did within the ranks of the Black Panther Party or the rules of the Black Panther Party had was motivated out of my religious beliefs. As a matter of fact, most people don't even know what I religiously believe in, because I kept that out. What I principally believed in was, whether I got up off my knees, whether I got up off my mat, whatever my religion is, after I got through praying, it was time to go do some damn action. And if you're not ready for it to do the action, then you just a cardboard revolutionary. You just as we would always say, a revolutionary theoretician who is not willing to die for their own principles. And I tell people that every day. I tell folks who, and I wouldn't call the name of some of these organizations out, but I tell people, I say, one thing I respect is the brothers and sisters who came up with us in the 80s and 90s and on into that late 90s were always willing to die for not just the organization, but for the mere fact to be free in their lifetime. They were
Yeah.
always willing to die. And that's the one thing I loved about you brothers. See, y'all were gonna put it on the line, man. Y'all had principles. Everybody always threw the rules out when folks did stuff wrong. He go what the rules say, brother. Sister, here's what the rules say. You can't violate the rules for your own personal beliefs. My wife sat in prison 17 years on death row, and I never once asked any member of the new Black Panther Party to go with me to go protest her incarceration, because what, that was personal for me, and I did not want to drag the organization into something that was personal in my life, not even to save somebody else's life. And so those are the principles that people need to live by every day of the week. I don't see that type of behavior with the organization today. I don't see any of those things. I see a lot of greed. I see a lot of folks trying to prostitute the name of the organization. And I see, if your audience will excuse me, I see a whole lot of dishonest motherfuckers, in the organization. I mean, just fucking dishonest motherfuckers, steal money, uh, uh, go after sisters, and sleeping with everybody in the party. Come on, y'all. I mean, what kind of shit is that? We
Yeah.
didn't do that. And if we were found doing that, I pull folks to the side and I say, hey, look, this type of behavior is not about principle. This is not about you. And if you can't control yourself, then you got to fucking go. Period. I had a good friend of mine, a martial artist who was in the organization back in the 90s in the party, and I had to put him out. And the reason was that he was going up to drug dealers' houses and buying drugs. And it's like, shit, we trying to help the community away from drug dealing and drug usage. And you are not the type of person that we need. If you got a problem, we can help you with the problem. We can get you the
Right.
help you need, but you got to want to be free from this shit. Now, I try to stay out of folks' bedrooms. I try to stay out of folks' personal lives, because that's you and your money and your thing, and that's what I've tried to do. Is I've tried. If it didn't affect me personally, I stayed out of it. But if it affected the organization, I'm all in it, both feet. And that's just the kind of person I am. You can't lead from the rear. You got to be able to lead from in front and walk with folks, all the way up to that front line, even if it meant for both that y'all had to die that day. And I appreciate brothers and sisters who were willing to always die for the things that we believed in. It was never about me. It was always about our people. every day. Remember, we wanted the power to determine our own destinies as individuals, as a group of people, to determine the destiny not only of ourselves and our families, but our Black communities. And I think people miss that whole philosophical base. That helped me. Long story around, that helped folks who were former members of the party. Uh, 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 Geronimo Pratt read about me and the new Black Panther Party while he was still serving his 28 and a half years in prison. When G got out of prison, he sought me out, found me in Dallas, and I bought him into Dallas. We bought him in, me and myself, Commissioner Price, we bought him into Dallas to speak. And one of the things that he said to me, he said, "Man, I read about you in prison," and he said it brought tears to my eyes to know that the thing that I lived didn't die with just me being in this prison cell. He said somebody picked up the mantle and kept moving forward. And Geronimo and I were really good friends all the way up until the time of his death, his untimely death years ago. And we were actually working on a project, a clean water project in Africa, beginning to work on that clean water project when he passed away and made the transition. So a lot of great folks. I mean, Daruba bin Wahad has spent 19 years, almost 20 years in prison in New York, and in different prisons in New York. And he became one of my greatest allies. And I think that when you stand on principle, when you stand for what's right, when you do the right thing at the end of the day, then those who are behind you or in front of you stand with you. I mean, Diane Ragsdale, who was a former member of the Black Panther Party here in Dallas, stood with me on many occasions. There were a lot of folks who came to our aid when we really, really, really needed it at the end of the day, and stood with us, man. A lot of times we had to have attorneys that we didn't pay for because we couldn't afford those attorneys, and they did cases for free. And what I see today is people getting cases, but attorneys are not showing up because some of the ideology of or the ideology of folks who are now claiming to be the leaders of the new Black Panther Party are living a principled lifestyle. And hell, nobody wants to be caught up, as we would say, brothers, in bullshit. And people want to be with principled people. You can always hang your hat on principles and your morals at the end of the day.
No doubt, no doubt. That's and it's funny that it's not funny, but there was actually you mentioned cats that were still in the pen and they died. And there was a brother, I guess a week or so ago, maybe not even that long, who was, I forget the brother's name, and I hate that I forgot his name, but he had been locked up for 51 years.
Yeah.
He was like the longest, serving time in the penitentiary member of the party. So yeah, he just passed away. And I think that's a really good point that plays into, one of the questions of the day. I guess number one, what were some of the first chapters outside of Dallas to come online after Dallas started being what Dallas was? And at the same time, and I think that's really, really important because you kind of highlighted it. A lot of these cats that are out there now that are claiming that are claiming the set don't know the history. They don't know the relationship. They may hear rumors. They like to put it up on the news and whatnot, how this famous old school Black Panther was against the new Black Panther Party, and that's all they hear. They don't realize that there are Geronimos and other Casada and these other folks who actually supported they understood that we weren't trying to take any fame or anything from somebody. We were trying to pick it up and keep it going, do what y'all told us to do. We're trying to do that. And I think a lot of these younger cats that are out there now see things like Jasper, or if they saw that, but see the limelight and the spotlight and the all the glory and haven't invested in and aren't aware of the history of what they're doing, where it came from. Because the reality of it is, bruh, all of these cats that are out there from, whatever, what is it in Atlanta, the People's Black Panther Party, even in fact, all of these cats owe whatever it is they're doing, effective, not effective, principle and purpose, or no principle and purpose, they owe that to what you and brothers like David Foreman and others were doing in 86, 87, 88, and so on. So getting an idea of chapters that popped up immediately after the Dallas chapter came on board, and then kind of what was that relationship going forward, like the Panther Vanguard in Los Angeles. I know at one time we had a relationship of some sort with them.
Right.
So yeah, just kind of clarifying the parent and its relationship to all these children that came afterwards.
Well, there was a chapter that we started in Cleveland, Ohio, with a group of brothers and sisters that were there, who were principally a cultural based organization. Saw the party on TV and decided that, you know, hey, this is the way we want to go, even though our principal base was about African culture and things of those natures. They could not leave out the fact that there needed to be a military or police apparatus within their belief system, and because we were a principled group at that time, they decided to bring that on. So we had about probably right at about 20 members of that Cleveland chapter that came online. Here, still in the state of Texas, we had a Lubbock chapter of the New Black Panther Party, and we would go down principally a lot of times, almost every couple of weeks, to check on that Lubbock chapter. And believe it or not, they were being led by a black female who was a pastor of a church, who understood, you know, that you know, besides her and her God and her family, that they needed to have an apparatus in place to protect themselves against racist brutality and attacks, and thwart the efforts of economic collapse within the black community in Lubbock, Texas. So we had a number, I told you, we had a number of folks from many aspects of the lives that black people have to live every day, who were out there working on behalf of the New Black Panther Party and working under those rules and regulations. So a lot of times that when we had problems, it was because folks was following the manual and they couldn't figure it out, and so they were still having problems with some of those members, and so they would call us in to help them to figure out what they need to do about a member who would continuously not follow the rules and regulations of the organization. So we did a lot of traveling just in helping folks get they act together. One of the things that I truly believe in, and I know sometimes people have issues about the way I say it, but I truly believe that when people join the local chapters of organizations back in the day and even today, that you know who's in your ranks. You've got to know who's in those ranks with you. You in the trenches with somebody. There's no way that you join the U.S. Marine Corps or the U.S. Navy or the U.S. Coast Guard or hell, the FBI, the Secret Service, the NSA. You don't join these organizations without putting a damn application out there and your background. Because what do those organizations do when they get that information? You put that application in, you know, they check your whole background.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
I mean, I'm just shit. You want a basic job in America today, and you just want to go out and work for whoever and make $15, $20, $25 an hour. People, you put in an application on the job, and people check your background just to make sure you're not lying about who you say you are.
Right.
I mean, I don't see how that people think that you can just show up at the New Black Panther Party meeting and don't put an application in.
Yeah.
Because I would say, shit, I was checking folks' backgrounds, not because I cared about what was on what you did. But I'll say this, and I'll stand on this, and I'll use this as a perfect example, because there were a few folks who came through that most folks didn't know had this issue. If you had been in prison and you were a pedophile and you went to prison for touching little boys or something like that, or little girls, let's just throw it all out there, little girls, little boys, whatever. If you were known to have sexual relationships with people under the age of 17, you know what I'm saying, then and you were 35 or 40 years old, I got a problem with you, because here's the number one thing that we promoted within the New Black Panther Party. family, togetherness, loving each other, we wouldn't have events that our families couldn't come to. And why is that? Because we were promoting the togetherness of the Black family. We were promoting Black men and women watching each other's backs and watching out. And I always tell folks, if you want to have a true revolutionary, you got to raise them revolutionaries. You raise them by bringing them around other revolutionaries and ideology. I mean, Tupac is a perfect example of a baby revolutionary, or even Fred Hampton Jr. around the struggle their whole lives. And
Yes.
so they grow up in the struggle. So they understand the struggle so they can hand that next generation of the struggle down to their children. So we got to raise. So me putting your family in jeopardy because I want brother Letdown to join the organization is just not it's just not a good thing. You know, this my homeboy. You don't need no application on him. He good. He good. Bullshit. The
Yeah.
Yeah.
motherfucker walked through the door. He want to be here and listening to us talk every week. Oh, we gonna get an application on this brother. You know, fuck that. Now, I don't care if it's my cousin, my sister, my brother. You come through the front door and you stay here. And I get it where you might, this may not be for you, but you figure that out pretty much in the first meeting, you know, because we let it all hang out in the meetings, you know. Those are the meetings where, like Brother Malcolm said, we got an issue with each other. We hash it out in the room. And when we walk out, everybody giving each other the dap, the hugs, and nobody would ever know that there was a problem. So those are the kind of meetings we had. Them Sunday come, as Mama would say, the Sunday come home to meeting, things like that. And
Yeah.
and so we had to take an application on folks, and taking that application gave me a psychological profile of the person who wanted to join the organization. If your goal was to kill white folks, and let's just say it was a whole lot of them folks came to
Oh
the
yeah.
party.
Oh yeah.
Man, fuck that. I hate the white man. That motherfucker enslaved my. Okay, brother, look, we got to get through that.
Give me a
Let's move
gun.
to the.
Nigga, give me a gun.
Yeah, give me a gun, brother. I killed him. Okay, god damn. You know, we see you fired up, brother. But here's the rules and regulations. Let's do this first, and then we'll see about giving you a gun. And there's also another aspect of this that most people didn't talk about, that I didn't talk about, is that were people psychologically sound to be in the room with folks when we talking about guns and shit.
Yeah.
If you think about that and you saw what happened on January 6th of this year, you understand that shit. Because let's just be honest, the new Black Panther Party, or the Black Panther Party in general, let's just say the Black Panther Party in general, from the 60s to now, is a fringe organization. People from the economic and political and the collapse of your personal life come from all walks of life to join those organizations. Now, a lot of people are looking for a place to hang their hat and do some work. Most of those folks are. But you get a lot of crazy ass folks joining those organizations, and those are the folks that you got to watch. You do not want to put a gun into the hands of a motherfucker who's schizophrenic. Fuck, let's just be honest. I mean,
That's the
shit.
government's job.
I mean, you know what I'm saying? You know, I'm just being honest, and I think because we need people, when you join in organizations like that, you need to take applications on people. And I'm gonna give you a perfect example of why I said all of what I just said. There was a brother who came into the organization, or who wanted to join the organization. I would just say a few years. We've been tossing this idea around for the last, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years about, you know, redealing with the organization in some manner. That's what we've been talking about. So I've been, believe it or not, I've been having these meetings off and on with people for 6, 7 years, 8 years now, you know, to see where folks are, and, you know, looking at the climate of America and things of that nature. There was a brother who came through the front door once, and he wanted to be in the new Black Panther Party. He wanted to be in leadership. I mean, he wanted all of these different things. So I took an application on this brother and ran a background on him. This brother had just gotten out of prison for rape.
God damn.
Yeah, he joined an organization, and I said, and so I pulled the brother to the side. And principally, I found out some of the things I found out about him because I was looking for him one day, and and I couldn't find him. So I'm like, what's going on with this brother? I haven't heard from him in over a week, 7 days. You know, folks just don't disappear like that. So I finally talked to someone in his family. They said he was in jail. I said, well, what is he in jail for? Well, they say he violated his probation. So okay, let me see what he in jail for. So I'm going through his background, and I see where he had been in prison for rape, not just one time. You know, I give you that. Okay, let's just say the police after you. I'm gonna give you that one. I'm gonna give you that aspect of it. You end up in prison one time for rape, but you've been to prison 2-3 times for rape. It's something going on. I mean, shit. Let's just call it like it is. And when we meet, and I'm talking to you about it, and if I ask you, when I ask people stuff, that means I fucking know what's going on. I want you to be honest with me and tell me about it.
Yeah.
And if you dishonest with me when I'm asking you this and you lie about it, then I got to call you on the carpet because you trying to hide it. But it's a reason that those types of people shouldn't be involved with mass organizations, because what? If you got the I can't help it, as my mama used to say, I just goddamn can't help it. I gotta touch little boys. I got the I can't help it, and I like little girls, or some of that bullshit. If you got the I can't help it, then guess what? Yeah, I mean, it's just people got shit. I gotta touch little girls or some shit. You know, they just fucked up like that. and so people are just, when you fucked up, this is not the organization that you need to be around. Because
Yeah.
we talking about freedom.
Yeah.
And we can get you some help. I can get you some psychological help to kind of help you through this process. And maybe in a year or two, when you got the control of yourself and you know, whatever, then maybe we can look at you rejoining the organization. But hell, if you just a few months out of prison and you touching little boys again, you guess what's gonna happen? The child who's in our custody for that day, and I got and say, brother, and I'm using for instance, if brother Psych or brother War got to leave the room, you know, and we come back and the little kid crying, and we trying to figure out why he crying, it's because this big motherfucker over here been touching on him. We got to kill this motherfucker.
Yeah.
I mean, just, you know, fuck that. I mean, you got to fuck him up. You got to fuck him up. You know, it's some things I cannot abide by. And I'm gonna tell you something on top of that. You're taking applications on people because some people the government is going to come to, and they could be used to be a snitch within your organization. And we found that out to be true when I was on trial in the 90s. And they had about 7 or 8 felony cases against me in the 90s. They had someone who was inside our organization, in our operation of the new Black Panther Party, who was snitching to the FBI and the Dallas County Sheriff's Department. We found out about it because my attorneys asked the FBI and the Dallas Police Department for their files on me and the organization. And that's when all of that shit came out. All of it. We got somebody inside the organization. Well, fuck. What are you gonna tell you? That I said that we gonna defend ourselves? I mean, that's all he could tell you. He got us plotting what? I mean, you ain't got us plotting to blow up the world. You ain't got us plotting to blow up downtown. You had no evidence on any type of extremist ideology other than we gonna defend ourselves. And fuck, I'll say that to the day I die. I'm gonna defend myself. I'm not gonna be nobody's stepping board. You know what I'm saying? Ever. You know, if I got to put you down, then you got to get put down, period. I mean, you know, some shit you just got to say because it lets people know where you at. I truly believe that Malcolm X was right, that we have to defend ourselves, that we have to be principled. But it does, the Black Panther Party said it best. We are not out here to murder people. We are not out here to kill cops. We're not out here to do all of the things that people said we were supposed to be doing, but we were never the Black Panther Party. There is no ideology. There is nothing out here where you find any members of the Black Panther Party from the 60s to today murdering people, murdering cops or any of that shit. It's just not there. There is no nothing in the counterintelligence files that say it. Now, what you do have is one person about 5 years ago who went to a few Black Panther Party meetings, who got involved with the shootout, in Dallas with the police. But that person was never a member of the new Black Panther Party, or he was never a member of the organization in any way. But he did go to some of the meetings. So they tried to tie him back to extremist behavior inside the new Black Panther Party. There you go.
Yep.
Here's an extremist group. And so that's why you got to always take an application on folks at the front door. You got to do it. Because if you don't, you end up getting yourself in trouble, your organization in trouble. It's the same thing. And I know we got off subject about what chapters we had. And I'll go back to the California chapter just in a few seconds. But if you don't take applications on people at the front door, you open yourself up to all kind of crazy, idiotic behavior. You got folks who shouldn't even be members of the new Black Panther Party, who don't want to follow rules, who don't want to follow regulations, who don't want to study, which is the principal reason that folks end up in the new Black Panther Party or end up in organizations like the Black Panther Party. You have to be a person who loves to study. You got to be, because that's principally those things. You got to be able to disseminate what is one ideological view over another, and figure out where do we fall in that line of what do we need to be following. And back to your original question, what other chapters were we working with? We worked with a brother out of California. His name was Kwaku Duran. Kwaku was an original member of the Black Panther Party in the 60s and 70s, and out in Los Angeles, California, where Geronimo Pratt had been a member of back in the day. And he and I developed a long-term relationship with each other. And so I decided, and this was during the Rodney King riots in LA, and right before they jumped off. And I started flying out to California a lot to meet with the Los Angeles Panther Vanguard movement. And let me say this, and I say this openly to people. People that we ended up bringing into the organization later on became a real detriment to the ideology of the Black Panther Party, number one. And they became a detriment to the organization in general. I don't care who you marry to. If you're a brother, you understand who you are as a Black man, and you marry somebody outside of the race, I don't care. That's between you and the person you sleep with at night. That ain't got nothing to do with me. And it shouldn't have anything to do with you and freedom for your people. Because I think that the person who you get with or be with understands that you are a principled person, or else that person wouldn't want to be with you. You don't, in other words, you can't be a secret Black Panther, at home, and then, because at some point in time, you're going to show up on TV somewhere.
Yeah.
They're going to be like, well, hell, I didn't know. When did you join the Black Panther Party? You can't go home and have that conversation. You Black and your wife is white. You can't do it. You gotta let her know up front on day one.
Yeah, mama, why daddy on TV getting arrested?
I know, right? Baby, your daddy can't be on TV. He's at work right now, trying to make a living for us. And she looked down, and you got on a black uniform, telling the police to fuck themselves. You can't do it. So I just figure that who you sleep with at night is none of my goddamn business. Period. And I say that because that's what the problem became in the late 90s for folks that we bought into the new Black Panther Party. they hated white folks, and they wanted everybody in the new Black Panther Party to hate white people.
Yeah.
And I thought that was it's the most asinine shit that I've ever seen before. You can't help who your parents are. Ain't got nothing to do. You know what I'm saying? You can't help who your parents are. The circumstances of your birth have nothing to do with who you are as an individual and what you do for your people today. It's just don't. It just don't. It's kind of like shit. My mama was a Baptist. I guess I'm a Baptist too. It's bullshit. You know what I'm saying? You choose your own path in life. And so who you marry, who you are with has nothing to do with the principles that you stand on. And so that became a problem uh, with some of the folks that we brought into the organization, in the late 90s. They didn't want to have anything to do with white people or white blood. And it's like, hell, 99, almost 90% of Black folks in the United States got white blood in them.
Yeah.
So how do you weed that out? I mean, my great grandfathers, I mean, they're all white. I'm Black, but they was white. So I think that we had to relook at a lot of that. That caused a lot of the problems in the new Black Panther Party and at the end of the day in 1999 and 2000. And of course, when I decided to leave in 2001, that became principally a problem with chapters that we had on the West Coast that we were dealing with. And I think it was crazy. It was insane. It should have never even been a problem because people were committed to the organization and moving the organization forward. And I think that was a mistake on the behalf of those folks who were in leadership at that time to let that be a problem within the group. So, but we had chapters we had chapters in Milwaukee, we had chapters in Ohio, we had chapters in California, principally before that big change that we did and made in the late 90s.
Let me ask a question.
Sure.
Yeah, so for clarity's sake,
yes,
what was this big change that happened in the late 90s?
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
I mean,
Really?
I know what it was, but
what it was, but you gotta have somebody to say that shit.
The people,
I don't have a clue.
Don't play around with the
need to know
words.
what it is. Yeah.
The people need to know what the hell it is. Okay, let's just say this.
Oh, here we go.
And hold on, before you say that, and how did it affect the because you alluded to the chapters in California mostly, but how did that change affect those other chapters and the people that was working on behalf of the organization?
The big change that came within the organization was this.